Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to the WGL EU Season 4 Match Week 10, and we're in the first playday of 2. And today we have the game we've all pretty much been waiting for coming up, but prior to that there is another and one following. We'll get into today's games in just a bit, but the thing is, as I said, it's Match Week 10. This season is coming to an end almost now. We're going to get into the last, final, really important games for some of these teams, and especially one of the first games we're going to be watching today, and that's going to be with Denial once again. And I think we need to look at those rankings pretty soon to see exactly as to why it's going to be such an important game. Basically, it's last chance saloon. We said it last week, but this time it means even more. You can see how far down they're getting in that rankings, in 8th position. This is one of their last chances to get back into this.
Even if they do manage to win this one and the next one, it's still very hard for them to qualify. I have to say this. You know, we saw them lose against Virtus.pro last week, and that was almost last chance. That was like last chance to guarantee them qualifying. Now they kind of leaving their fate in towards the hands of other teams. We can see TCM and Cplay both on 12 points there. So to Denial, if they win the next 2 games, that'll bring them up to 18 points. But if TCM or Cplay win one of their 2 games, they're going to guarantee themselves a slot pretty much as well. So Denial can still qualify, and they have a good chance as they do play the next 2 and win the next 2. But Cplay and TCM have a much easier road ahead, and really they have the easier teams as well.
Yeah, and you know, to be fair to Cplay, they've been playing quite well through the season. I'd love to see them doing pretty damn well and getting kind of rewarded for their play this season. And really starting to push themselves, because that is really the testing point for these teams. It's all very good and well being able to play at home with your own setup, comfortable. You know, once the pressure's on you, those lights are on, you've got the crowd in front of you, that's when you see if the teams really can cut it. And speaking of teams, let's have a little look towards today's games, because I did mention there is the game that everyone wanted to see, and it's finally going to be the matchup between Virtus.pro and Kazna. Everyone wants to see if maybe, just maybe, someone can take down Virtus.pro, and the only team we feel that could do it from the very start here was Kazna, and it's taken us to Playday 10 till we could really watch it. But your thoughts on this one coming up?
Well, Kazna and Virtus.pro obviously 1 and 2. We've seen in the rankings just previously. Virtus.pro is still quite far ahead in terms of the points they got. I mean, they're like 27 points, and Kazna is still on 19. So at this point, Kazna can't actually catch Virtus.pro, you know, no chance at all.
Standing, no.
So Virtus.pro guaranteed to go through first, and Kazna and SchoolBus sitting on exactly the same amount of points, exactly the same standings in terms of their win, draws and losses. For this game, it's going to be about who goes second in the season. Obviously, we still got the last match day, but really, I think Kazna has a good chance of going second if they do beat Virtus.pro, and it will give us a taste of, you know, how the top 3 in the season finals will actually play out.
Yeah, and it's also a little bit of a grudge match. Let's be serious here. Kazna have been trailing behind Virtus.pro. Virtus.pro have looked untouchable, but Kazna have been looking like they could maybe get there. You know, they've been very, very close to kind of finding that form. And obviously the first game coming up will be Denial against SchoolBus. And, you know, let's speak logically here. Can Denial actually take these guys down? Because SchoolBus have been slowly but surely building up these rankings, whereas Denial's kind of sat at the bottom here. And SchoolBus looked quite comfortable in the last couple of games. Is there a chance for Denial? Yeah,
SchoolBus have been getting a lot better through this season. They start off a little bit weak with all the changes they had, and through mid-season as well showed some a little bit lackluster play. But really at the end of the season, you know, going right from the bottom of the table to the top, now sitting in second behind Virtus.pro, they look a lot stronger than Denial, who are far down the table. So for me, would have to be SchoolBus's game. Denial obviously being a last chance saloon. We said this last week, just as Virtus.pro, Denial will actually have to pull out something special. They didn't manage to do it last time, and the question is, can they do it today?
Yeah, it's certainly pressure on time, and you know, these guys used to be the fan favourites, Denial, you know, under the Mouse Sports, Lemming Train, any of their various titles. They used to be the team that people wanted to see doing well. They showed us a glimpse of promise at those offline, you know, massive grand finals between every single region really showing up, but you know, since then, not really had that form, and I think SchoolBus have kind of taken their fan favourite standings. But I think we need to start looking towards how the people at home can get involved, obviously, because it is all about your opinions. We can give you the background all we want, but it's all about your votes and your predictions coming into these matches, because, you know, a lot of the fan favourites these days have kind of switched around. We used to see Kazna Crew at the top. They're still pretty much there, but with various new reasons. They used to be almost not a comedy team, but it was more of a personality team.
I'm sure they'll love you for that.
But now they've got the results to back it up as well, which is always good to see. And obviously there's someone waiting in the wings who I didn't get to introduce at the start, who will be taking you guys through that. So Melly, obviously people at home out there will want to get their predictions through to us. How can they do that?
It's exactly like you said. We want to hear from you. So head over to facebook.com/WGLEU. Like us, of course, become part of our network and stay updated during the whole season and all happenings in the season. And even when it comes to the finals, I think we'll provide the audience at home with special information. So you should definitely like our page to get notified as soon as something happens in our league. And of course, as said, we want to hear from you. I will put up a poll where you can vote for your favorite team, and there will be a little form field in this app, and there you have to fill in your predictions for that current matchup. And by guessing right, by predicting the exact scoreline of this matchup, you get the chance to win one of 3 bonus codes, and those bonus codes aren't that tiny, to be honest. They're containing a T2 Lite, 1,000 gold, 7 days of premium, and a garage slot. So I think it's definitely worth getting involved. And of course, another platform is Twitter. Twitter.com/WGLEU. Like us, follow us. You follow people on Twitter, obviously, and you will. I will keep you updated during the matches. So even if you can't watch the stream, if you're stuck in school, stuck in university, or on the bus, or in a traffic jam, you won't miss anything happening here, because I will write live updates after every map, and you will know what's happening on the servers. So I think it's definitely worth following this account. And of course, I will reward 3 tweets of the day. So by simply tweeting, by simply sharing your opinion towards the teams or the league or the match day, or if you have questions to our experts, you can win bonus codes by simply telling us what's on your mind by using the hashtag WGLEU. I will pick 3 winners at the end of every match day and reward them with bonus codes simply for getting involved, for joining the discussion. And another thing is, of course, the Twitch chat. You're invited to join the conversation in there. It's really nice and calm. Thanks to our awesome moderators in there and admins. Thank you guys for your work. And of course, follow us on Twitch. It's very important, since you get an email, you get a pop-up, you get everything. You won't miss any minute of our awesome show if you do so. So I think that's pretty much all. You can of course send postcards and I don't know, mail pigeons. How is it called? Those little birds.
Carrier pigeons.
Carrier pigeons. I don't know. I would love seeing like a little birdie sitting here in the studio. So I don't know. Just get involved, and we're waiting for your messages and tweets.
Well, let's give those people at home maybe a little bit of a closer look at the teams you're about to be voting towards. Obviously, SchoolBus and Denial, the first 2 coming up here today. And I've got to say it, Denial not impressed me this season just yet. They've still got very strong players, but they just don't seem to have that synergy together they used to have. That leadership lacking, slightly passive these days. Never quite leading the way in such a kind of formidable fashion. But let's have a look closer at these lineups now coming into this, because, SchoolBus, we don't have to tell you too much about these guys. You've known them for a long time. But take me through Denial. Who are the key players here that could give them that victory?
Well, Potomac has been really a model of consistency for the team. No one else has. That's the problem. Everyone in Denial doesn't seem to have the kind of connection they used to have in previous seasons. I'm not sure if that's just down to Elian. I have to say, he was a very good player and a key instrument to their success, but also it's somewhat down to their decision making. They just haven't been doing it correctly. They seem to be missing that spark they had as a previous Lemon Train, as a previous Mouse Sports. Remember, those guys always in the top 3, really impressing, and at the grand finals being a top 5 finisher in the whole entire world. Now, not even looking like they can qualify for the season 4 finals. If they do, it would be truly incredible. But honestly, looking through the results, TCM and C-Play have done a better job this season, have been the better team. So whether they actually deserve this season finals and whether they actually should have it as a team, because I honestly think, it'll be healthier for them to lose out and really have to build themselves out again. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. They do need to kind of ground themselves down a bit and maybe build back up just from the very basics, because they seem to be lacking some of the very simple facts of World of Tanks here. And it's surprising, because they never used to lack that in their gameplay. They used to hammer down the basics. They used to be a little light on, let's say, the accuracy side. They'd never had the best results in that, let's say, looking at the statistics previously. But everywhere else, boxes were checked. It was always pretty solid. But now, very, very different. So first map coming up, I believe, will be Steps. We can get our final predictions in. Who's going to pick this one up?
I think SchoolBus might.
I think I'm there with you. So guys, let's get ready for that first map, Steps. And welcome into the first matchup here. Denial will be starting in the north in blue. In the south in red, it's SchoolBus. And what sort of tank lineups have these two chosen for Steps?
Well, Denial with the Pershing T69 Triple MX 1390 double tier 1, so pretty classic. And from SchoolBus, it's of course the quadruple AMX 1390 Pershing double tier 1. We've seen a lot more teams actually pick the kind of heavy AMX 1390 lineups, more because of just the, if you can really run away from the opponent, then the opponent, naturally can't do any damage to you. So you have a lot of firepower, a lot of maneuverability, and it's really becoming a popular choice, even on maps like Cliff, where we saw Virtus Pro crush Denial with 5 AMX 1390s, and that's a team that never picks those kind of setups. So I think it's just a matter of the game changing a little bit and the teams wanting to speed things up as they go in through to the later stages of the season, just to catch the other teams out.
Yeah, and what sort of beginning are we seeing from these two here? It looks like not unorthodox, but a little bit different startup from these.
Yeah, I mean, you can see a little bit like TCM, and I suppose it's what Denial does these days as well, is just, keep most of their tanks up towards the north and just defend off from what we've seen a lot of southern teams do, heading around the side and kind of spread their tanks up the 1, 2, 3 line. It's really the question from the beginning of Steps. Is the team going left? Is the team going right? Are they going towards that trench, or are they going towards the rock side? Especially from the south, that's the question. More common from the north is just to push over towards the trench side than anything else. It gives you the better advantage. But you can see not the wall of death, but the half wall of death. Shanish and Positive sitting the 2 AMX 1390s, waiting for Denial to push up the kind of rock side, but that's what they've been doing lately, so I guess it's a good call. Zenith gets caught out a little bit by them too, so worth it so far for them, but Denial does have a good amount of information.
Yeah, and it looks like SchoolBus will be rotating from the back of that. Don't want to hang around too long, really. Shanish get himself out of there after taking that initial shot and going to readjust. They still have Positive sitting there in position, so there's no weak spot really made. He's just going to adjust around and make sure he doesn't stay spotted too long, and Arclit can pick up and get some of those blind shots down in that Pershing. Nothing really working out so far. Maybe try and look for Zenith again, get some more damage done. But I think they're playing a little careful here. And I look back to how Denial played this last time, this consistent cat and mouse game going back and forth with, I think it was Evil Panda Squad, if I'm not mistaken, constantly rotating around each other, but never quite getting the job done. So I'll be interested to see if Denial are willing to do that again, or if that's maybe not quite the option they have in mind here. Because it looks like, well, Armely, Shanish are going to be joining Positive towards that southwest side with Arclit just over the small mound. So they may be forming a little bit of a move up towards that west side, maybe. And
Denial has Carmen in the perfect position, just ready for this move. He will get taken down pretty quickly, and the information will be questionable as he's going to poke around, finds Arclit, has to try and get out of there as quickly as possible. I think he knows he's down, and he's going to be out, but he's got Snip in the background as well to spot out when the push does come along. So Denial Esports at the moment doing a good job of spotting, keeping the pressure onto SchoolBus, not letting them have an area of the map. But again, they're not using it decisively. They're seeing, okay, well, we know SchoolBus is in XYZ position, but we're not going to try and counter that. We still got, quite a lot of tanks in towards the middle where you don't really want them, near Pizzorni and Potomako in the MX 1390, and of course near Pizzorni in the T69. So you don't really want to split on Steps. You want to be having them in the same location so they can kind of pounce on. Of course, maybe a push down the middle, but at the end, you really want to be pushing onto the other team in the same place, doesn't matter where you come from.
Yeah, and I'm surprised Carmen's still alive. Armely, they're fluffing the shot several times. So that does mean Common is still up and standing. Shanish not too far away either. Finally, Arklit will land the shot, but as you mentioned, it looks like SchoolBus are heading down towards the south on that east side from that 8-0 line. At the moment, only Dark God Zim really, I think, over towards that side to try and keep eyes on. He was spotted out a little earlier on in that tier 1. But they do need to keep this in mind because, well, they look like they're going to be rotating back around, Shanish retracting away, and they might have to brace for impact if Denial actually fully commit here. But we know these guys are happy to just traverse up and down that 0 line.
Yeah, but Denial are doing it pretty well at this point because they know that, okay, SchoolBus are not going to push forwards because, well, they got discovered, they got spotted out by Calm in that tier 1, so what their only real option is either to push through the middle, which is not very plausible, of course, head over toward the right side. That's why Meritorious there in the Pershing is in the perfect location to deal with it, and indeed the whole of Denial Esports in terms of their combat tanks, their damage dealing tanks are also in the right place, so they are going to be able to get some damage down here.
Yeah, Armley moving up. Dark God Zim using the Deflate very well. Butcher takes one from Live for Surf there in the background. At the moment, SchoolBus not flinching in the face of adversity at all. They're holding on pretty well. Armley just getting... I feel a little far forward. He's out on a little bit of a limb. He does have the map on his side, however. He can get away. And I don't think Denial really want to peek up too much. They know that the team has retracted back now. Several shots from Live for Surf did the damage. And now Arklit and Armley can just adjust accordingly. Assuming maybe that Denial will be heading back up north. Yet they haven't fully rotated here.
CNF also heading up towards the left side a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what his plan is, but if he can get across here, he could find himself in an awkward position, but also an awkward position for SchoolBus, maybe a thorn in their side. But they are starting to get around, as you said, rotating back up towards the north. And Denial as well have kind of associated a few tanks up there. So they are prepared for any push that SchoolBus puts forwards, and that's the great thing about the trench. Indeed, you can just put all your tanks along and you can kind of cover all angles at the same place at the same time. 4 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock here for Denial to do something. I'm not sure if Steps is really the map they want to go for. But it certainly would be something they'd have to keep in mind, because against Evil Panda Squad they had to rely on a very stupid move for them to win it.
Well, at the moment, Shanish still heading over. He's now just crossed over those railroad tracks, so he is far up in towards the north. We have got a couple of spots coming through. Dead Hunter does get spotted and taken down by Potomako. No real surprise there, but it will halt at least the advance for a little while. Armley and Positive a little bit more cautious, but nevertheless they've got some good positionings here. Is there anyone in really an advantage, at the moment, or is it very evenly spread?
It's pretty even. I mean, both tier 1s are down for the two teams. Yeah, Butcher, Zenef, and Meritorious have all taken a shell each. So in terms of HPs, about 600 HP in favor for SchoolBus. So theoretically, they are in the better position, but you still need to have that committal, and those 3 shots will be, equaled very quickly in an engagement. They really won't have that much of a significance, and it will still require one of these two teams, to be SchoolBus, to actually commit properly, make the execution perfect. As a couple of shots going to come out from Potomako towards Armley. Receives a couple of his own. Luckily both of them were actually penetrating 486 damage, and Shanish being the one to really pump that into his side and being in a very... It makes it even harder for Denial to make the move here. I think for them, it's just going to be about hunkering down and waiting for SchoolBus, the Ukrainian team, to push across.
Yeah, you can see Butcher on your screen there, just trying to get him to position in. And to be fair to SchoolBus, they've been chipping away really nicely at the HP. Arklit now joining up with the 1390s towards the north by that 3 line, using the hills very nicely, using the, just going past Dead Hunter there, as you can see. But still, I'm interested to see if SchoolBus go for this. Generally, we've been, talking to the teams. The first map is not the map they want to make the move on. It's too risky to give up, one game at, at the very start. They don't like making that commitment. But SchoolBus are not in a bad position here. They could go for the engagement. There's still 3 tanks split a little further away from Denial, so they could overmatch it. But I don't think they're going to. With 2 minutes left, they might test out the waters maybe with a cap. But is this really the map to be doing that on?
Well, we've seen the cap actually work quite well on Steps. It's been weird. I mean, this season has been a strange one altogether. Things we didn't think would ever work have suddenly become the only option for the teams, as they do try and struggle to get a win on what's been like a high firepower, low action. But look at that, Shanish Positive starting to head over.
Yeah, it looks like SchoolBus do want to make a first move here. The 1390s getting into some form of position. 1 minute and 25, there is enough time for an engagement if they can catch all the players now. And let's see if Denial can hold on. Armley goes in for the first, gets denied by Zenef. And now Shanish out on a limb. Shanish could be in trouble here. I don't know if he's trying to be the bait. For this one, they've ignored Potomako behind, so this could go very wrong. But Shanish, he's not stopping for anyone. He's going straight through here, and the cap has started. There we go, and Shanish coming around the backside. Positive finds Nias Pizzoni, and Zenef is in trouble here. Shanish needs to land these shells. He's in the perfect spot to do it. Potomako finds Positive in reply. There we go. Armley comes in towards Zenef to assist. Shanish now, and Armley in a little bit of a position. Now he's in a little bit of trouble. Maturis finds Arclit. It's not a clean engagement just yet. 1 minute on the cap still as Shanish hunting down towards Butcher, but Meritorious holding up against Armley. And these guys are going back and forth here, but so far, who's in a better position?
Well, as pressure comes on from SchoolBus, it comes straight off as Meritorious nails that shot.
Yeah, but Shanish still hunting around. 30 seconds. Can they take down that massive tank in enough time? Shanish doing some great work there. Snip is still alive, and the cap has been halted. Shanish now caught in the tracks. He's going to be trying to get out of here. 18 seconds left. He's got Potomako waiting over the other side. Live for Surf, still 3 shells ready and waiting to make. Potomako also has reel available. Shanish comes in with the ram. He's going to try and take this man down. A little bit of damage done, but Shanish looks like he's about to fall. 5 seconds left. I don't think there's time to do this one. I think the teams left it a little too late, didn't have that engagement, and the first map is going to be a draw.
And it was a bit scrappy as well from SchoolBus with Shanish coming around from the side. Didn't really put their firepower into one location. I think it was an okay idea, but it just took too long to execute. I think he should have gone for the high road, as Denial was actually looking at towards Potomako instead of the other way around. So a couple of execution problems from SchoolBus could actually give Denial a little bit of confidence. Also, Meritorious doing a very good job there, means he's on point today. You know, in previous match days, I've been a little bit disappointed with Meritorious. He's been a very good player for Denial, bring them up a lot, and this time he's just not been too good this season. I think you maybe have to look at his general play and the way he's feeling in his tanks, but that looked confident, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. They held back against SchoolBus, but I think that's more SchoolBus not having that fight coordination, which is rare. No Applewell in the lineup either, which is dangerous. Maybe surprising. Yeah, we've seen the difference between SchoolBus with Applewell and their, maybe the first team, almost, and then their kind of secondary team without him and a couple of players switched in. Don't get me wrong, these are all very talented players, but Applewell does make a big difference in this. Shanish being out on a limb, as you mentioned, not great work. A little bit surprising, so maybe Denial do have a chance in this one. I'm going to be completely honest here. There's certainly a possibility, and I'm hoping we might see that come through on Himmelsdorf. However, the one thing that makes me worry for Denial on this map, so when they're playing defensively in the north, for example, they will head over towards the northwest and hunker down. When I look back at how this map used to be played out by the teams who originally did that, SchoolBus was one of them who kind of fashioned that hold in the northwest side, along with Virtus Pro to an extent, but then Virtus would play their own game off the back of it. Now, knowing SchoolBus, they'll know how to undo that situation very well. They've done it before. I don't know if Denial can have that as an option if they start in the north this time.
Yeah, Denial are starting in the north, I do believe, so I think it's going to be a question if they actually go for that northern hunker down position. I kind of
hope they don't. They've been caught out there before.
They haven't done particularly well against them. I think Evil Panel Squad managed to break it.
Yeah, they did.
And that's where Denial have been really lacking, to be honest. Just not the ability to choose the right options. I think Himmelsdorf is actually a map they've been pretty good on in the past, and they maybe just have to think, okay, so SchoolBus have lost on a few matches up on this one, so let's try and actually take the win instead of going for like Cliff and Mines, which are a little bit more unpredictable. And SchoolBus without Applewell, as you said, is a weaker SchoolBus in general, so if you have to win it on anything, you have to win it on this time. Last time, for instance, the Evil Panel Squad played against SchoolBus without Applewell, they lost 3-0, so they won. Well, Evil Panel Squad won 3-0. SchoolBus lost 3-0. So it's their chance, really. Denial has a great chance here. Himmelsdorf, a little tricky one for them. I think they need like Elian to kind of give them that real heavy tank player, but they've still been pretty good here.
Yeah, it's for me, I want to see Denial making the moves rather than waiting to see what the other team can do, because SchoolBus are of a pedigree, and they're still one of my favourite teams on Himmelsdorf alongside the likes of Virtus Pro, who always have that beautiful evolution of a plan. They'll come out with the first plan, and then if they need it, they'll have a backup, and they can always adapt and rotate, which I really like about them. But they have shown some weakness, mostly without Applewell, and obviously having new players stepping in when necessary, which is to be expected. When you're not playing with your full lineup, you have to keep that in mind. But I like SchoolBus on this map. I want to see them playing the smart game rather than their defensive mode that they can go into occasionally. And the same can be said for Denial. They're two similar teams in a way. I think SchoolBus are a little bit more well-rounded. They know, a couple more options they can kind of run to with their tactics. But I'd like to see the same from Denial. As you said previously, a very competent team on this map. Haven't really seen too much of it this season, but they're still the same players. They still know the same way to play those tanks. I don't see why they can't bring it out when they have to. However, the tank picks coming in, I think. Is there any surprises, or is this normal Himmelsdorf?
This is normal Himmelsdorf so far. Triple MX51, of course, double IS3, double tier 1 from both Denial, I believe, starting from the north, and SchoolBus starting from the south. So standard stuff from these two. I just want to see SchoolBus also improve their Himmelsdorf play, and they really haven't been too good on this map. They've kind of brought it out on Prokhorovka and Mines and Cliff and all those ones, especially Cliff, I have to say. But on this one, they've been a little bit lacking. So I think it's a test for both Denial and SchoolBus.
Yeah, both teams in the same predicament, still tied at 0-0. Obviously, the first map was a draw, but I believe the teams are getting themselves ready so we can start drawing our attention to the second map, Himmelsdorf. And welcome into the second map here. Himmelsdorf now coming up. In the north in blue, it will be Denial once again. And in the south in red, it's SchoolBus. And you guys at home are favouring the team starting the south with 69%. As if you'd vote to that number. But regardless, what are we seeing from the start?
Denial heading all towards the hill. Good to see they're not actually going for that defensive position. Classically, they've just gone straight into the 1-3 line, 1-5 line, I should say, and just camping there with all their tanks. This time, going forwards, Butcher, Zenith, Potomac, and Meritorious, Snip, obviously in that tier 1, all heading up towards the hill. Carmen is the only one really down on a limb, and of course, Nia Pizzorni a little bit late to the party as he had to destroy the base trash and such. Also starting to head towards the hill, or just defend the base area in general. And for SchoolBus, it does look like as well going for something pretty classic, although it has changed up in the last 3 or 4 match days. Pretty much the ending of the season, as most of their tanks also heading up the hill. Double 5100 tier 1, pretty classic stuff from them, and 2 tanks, the 2 IS3 of course sitting in the middle. Final 5100 in the J3 area.
See, now with Carmen being spotted out, and he is around the 8 line, surely that might ring alarm bells that, okay, well, there's not an IS3 there, as you mentioned before when this was sort of played. They might start considering the fact that it could be a hill play. Do you think that's an option now?
Yeah, they got to be careful. The hill play is obviously interesting, especially as Carmen did get spotted out. Basically, it just says to SchoolBus that Denial Esports are not looking for the 8-line push at the start, which doesn't really come out. Snip just tests Dead Hunter there. Doesn't manage to take him down there, only 26 HP coming off that tank. But as I was saying, yeah, it definitely does give SchoolBus a little bit of an inkling, and maybe a little scared as Dark got him also pushing up towards the 2-3 line, and SchoolBus are doing it perfectly. They basically called Denial's bluff. They saw that there was a tank on the 8 line. They thought, okay, so we could sacrifice the tier 1 up the 1-3 line, but we're gonna bet that Denial's actually on the hill, and so far it's worked out perfectly. And 2 versus 1 against Meritorious, not Meritorious, I think that's
Nia Pizzorni
in the IS3 would be a very disastrous matchup for him.
Well, I'm curious to see now where Denial take it, because I don't know how much information they've gathered as of yet. Probably now not spotting out a tier 1 on the hill or any other tanks around that marker is going to start them thinking, okay, maybe they've worked this out. Maybe they've started to consider where we are, and they need to kind of respond pretty soon, because let's be serious, SchoolBus are pushing up quite heavily. There's the spot. Armley does get caught out by Nias Pizzorni. Nias Pizzorni does get the first shell, really connecting then. So far, damage completely in favour to Denial, but they're going for a bit of a split here off the hill, actually. They're going to hedge their bets, put 2 down towards the south as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty good plan,
This
actually.
is nice.
It's a pretty good plan. They had 2 tanks ready to go back to base, 2 tanks ready to push. And SchoolBus might actually be caught right in the middle, as they do head back to the base, making 3 combat tanks defending, 2 combat tanks pushing. Of course, you still got the tier 1 there. Dead Hunter sitting back, ready to take these 2 5100s they push forward. Zenith, Butcher are those 2 men of action, and Snip joins them from behind on that tier 1. So the cap is going to be Denial Esports' next play.
Well, let's see if they can pull it off here. Dead Hunter, as you said, is in position to spot this one out. Snip, Zenith, and Butcher are making their way forward down that K line. Now, let's bear in mind, Positive is here in that 5100 as well. Look how aggressive they're going. They could be moving straight in for a flat-out exchange. They're going to find these guys anytime now. Live for Surf finds Snip, but I don't think they spotted out any of the other tanks, so not sure if they've got the full information from this one, but Butcher and Zenith might get away scot-free from this.
That was great stuff, actually, and just because they didn't get spotted, and that gives Denial Esports the ability to put tanks up in towards the 8 line here and basically catch SchoolBus as they come off the back of that tier 1 kill. But if SchoolBus come from behind, that would be dangerous and disastrous for them. Denial Esports, their opposition, but that good thing, Meritorious, Protomako pushing up the 8 line, they're going to be able to take them right in the middle. And we have to see how these 5100s can pump out the damage, because this first engagement from the two is going to be absolutely essential from Zenith and Butcher.
Yeah, this is going to be a big play. Shanish now appears. He's going to get punished there. Does get tracked, I believe, almost. Shanish is now in a little bit of a awkward predicament. He is back up and running. Positive and Live for Surf now backing him up. This could be an all-out brawl. You can see these guys going back and forward. Butcher tries to escape as well. Ooh, just about caught on the way out. And Armley now moving into a position. I think they're going to be going head-to-head here.
But that was pretty bad, actually, from those two. They could have done more damage, but they're kind of too preoccupied with the positioning, and Meritorious was going to have to try and deal with that.
Well, let's see if he can land any of these shells. He is going to be initially hitting some of these. I think it's on towards Shanish more than anyone. Armley is at the front here, caught out a little bit, but he's in the IS-3. Potomako making the split round the side. Let's see if they can keep this up. Meritorious landing shell after shell. This is looking good for Denial. Look at the HP advantage they have, and if Potomako can make it round here, if he can take down Live for Surf, he's in a great spot, but going in for the 1v1. Potomako comes out on top so far. Big damage dealt. Live for Surf is in trouble. He's backing the hell up here, and it looks like they've got SchoolBus pinned into a corner here.
Exactly what I said. They're going to pin them as they go up the 8 line and also the 7 line. Perfect play thus far, and Oto Potomako doing a very skillful, very good job, is completely outplaying them at the moment.
Yeah, but look at the tier 1s here for SchoolBus. They look like they've got a plan on the go. Dead Hunter and Dark God Zim heading back. Carmen spotted. Keep your eyes on those guys, because I think SchoolBus are just going to try and play this one smart. Force Denial to rotate.
Yeah, Denial really have a time limit now on their next move. Zenith, Potomako still pretty healthy. 3 shells left in that autoloader for them, and also 4 from Butcher.
Cap has begun. The 2 tier 1s are now in that cap circle. They're going to force the hand of SchoolBus and Denial. Now let's see if they can hold on to this. Potomako gets a little bit more damage, and he did go for Armley, but didn't realize Positive was there waiting to defend. And has this forced a rotation out from Denial, or are they leaving it to Carmen to deal with?
Oh, a little bit more damage. Yeah, they're leaving it to Carmen. I believe one tank's actually starting to head back, maybe Butcher in the middle. As Meritorious does push on to Arclit, does a little bit of damage, but it's slow stuff from Denial.
Yeah, very, very tensive stuff. Look at the HP here. Shanish low, Armley low, but Butcher and Potomako are lower, and it looks like Zenith's been caught. Positive finds Potomako, and the move comes out from SchoolBus. They have found these guys, and they're tearing them apart. We've finally seen one tank making its way back, but it's too little too late. Butcher cannot get there in time. Denial too slow to the mark, and SchoolBus pick it up on the second map. And this is what I love about SchoolBus. Those secondary plans, those evolution of gameplay, and they knew Denial just... I'm surprised Denial did not make a move sooner, though. They were in the position, there's no heavier tanks. They knew where every single player from SchoolBus was, maybe excluding the 2 tier 1s, but you can work out the speed of the cap, obviously.
Yeah.
Why the hell they didn't send anyone back sooner? Why they left it to Carmen for so long just to handle it on his own? And then Butcher coming back on his own, very slow to the mark as well. It was looking so good for Denial, and they just let it slip.
We've seen this time and time again from Denial. They just don't seem to have the ability just to think of what to do next once they're in that advantageous position.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit lucky for them as well that they caught SchoolBus. I'm not sure if that was exactly the plan for them, but catching SchoolBus... If it
was, it was great.
Yeah, exactly. If it was great. I'm not sure if it was. Yeah. They caught them straight in the middle. Basically had the 251 left, which was... They played badly, but they got away with it kind of because their position was just better. And then they had the tanks come at the right. But there was no snappiness. I don't know what they were doing there. They had every single advantage they could have possibly. They just need to be more aggressive. You know, commit some tanks up towards the right side. You only have Potomako there. You should have had Butcher there. You should have Meritorious there as well. You can see how the firefight went down, and also the cap. Dead Hunter goes in there and really starts the pressure on, and Denial had no answer.
Yeah, and Carmen was here, but you can see there's no one else responding. Butcher did start to head back a little way.
Yeah, but you can see these 3 tanks in the left side. They should have all pushed in a lot earlier. And Meritorious should have also pushed in. Basically, Denial just had to surround SchoolBus in that position.
It looks like Denial just didn't quite understand where to go with it. Maybe the calls were not clear enough because no one was moving back. 20 seconds still on the cap. just now Butcher started to head off.
Yeah.
Just then, and Carmen losing out on the 1v1 against Dark God Zim was huge. But then 15 seconds, Butcher was still so far away. He was not in the action he needed to be at. And look, finally, getting back over the halfway mark, 5 seconds left. You know, that's not enough time here. Butcher should have been there earlier, but sending someone on 64 HP is still very dangerous. It was
He could
just
have
so
still died by a
planned.
tier 1 if he got caught from the side.
In theory, and they knew there were 2 of them there, 2 tier 1s back, so there's always that threat, and to me that's a real shame because Denial had played that so well, and then it just hit that marker, the 2 tier 1 play coming up from SchoolBus. You know, SchoolBus have done this for years, let's be serious. You know, against Virtus Pro, it's back and forth, constantly like that, but then Virtus Pro would have the 2 tier 1s doing the same thing, so there'd be this double rotate, double, tier 1 cap happening, and the teams have to be so on point with their decisions. If Denial maybe had thought of that a little earlier, maybe kept that in mind, they'd have kept maybe 1 tank back somewhere, but there's just none of that from them. Really surprising and slightly disappointing, because they were, I'd say, leading that one until that tier 1 race came into effect, and they just didn't quite have the answers. But still, that's only 2 maps down. We've still got 1 to go, and this isn't even the game of the day for me. This is just the warm-up to it. It's looking pretty good so far. Maybe not for Denial if you're one of their fans, but still, the vast majority are sticking with SchoolBus at the moment. I think you're deciding it right. I think I'm with them on that one. I've always liked SchoolBus on Himmelsdorf. I think you're correct in saying they've not quite been as potent this season, but they still obviously have the ability there, with or without Apple WoW in tow. But still, we need to start looking at the next map. Mines. Now you said this was a little bit of a dangerous map. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of variety in play. Who has the advantage in this one? Because I've not been impressed by SchoolBus on this either. This has been a little bit of a lacking one for me.
Yeah, SchoolBus have been a little bit slow to the mark on this map, and their positioning of the IS3 has always been a little bit questionable. But I think the real question is whether, Denial, they can't have Cliff as an option. I think it would have been their other map they could have possibly won against SchoolBus on. But because SchoolBus is so unnaturally good at that map, it kind of like crosses that one straight out as well. So maybe Mines is their real only answer to bring out something special and give something SchoolBus which they have never seen before. But it's going to be a hard one still. Denial have to be assertive. They have to know what to do in a position when they have
Fully
the advantageous.
plan.
Exactly. When they have the advantageous position, they know what to do, and they have to just basically pounce on that one chance they have. And double T32, double T6, triple T69, double T1 for Denial, and for SchoolBus it's going to be double AMX 3090. 110, T32, W132, double tier 1. So very odd stuff from SchoolBus.
Yeah, very unique lineups. We're going to have to see how these come into effect. So guys, let's get ready for that third map, Mines. And welcome into battle number 3 here on Mines. Those rather unique lineups coming into effect. Kind of curious how they use them. In the south, in blue, it's going to be Denial, and in the north, in red, it's SchoolBus. How are we seeing these guys going about this?
Denial are not going to be playing passively. It's usually the T32s just go to my right there, but Meritorious, Butcher all heading up towards the hill. The T69's going for the real hull down positioning there to try and counter SchoolBus's push onto the hill, which they've done. The WZ132 heading up Armley as well. And obviously, that's what was play from SchoolBus from the beginning there. 2 MX 3090s, the WZ132, maybe expecting Denial Esports to actually use those AMX 3090s to try and get the hill. Otherwise, there's really no point of that WZ132, especially when it gets caught.
Wow, Live for Surf just got taken down to nothing. 325 HP left, and that has opened up so many possibilities now for Denial. Don't get me wrong, a little bit of damage did come towards Nias Pizzorni, but still, nothing compared to Live for Surf. He really got caught out then.
That was good, actually, stuff from both teams. They had the same idea, basically, to try and catch out one of the players right at the beginning. Nia Pizzorni got caught, but because Live for Surf doesn't have very much HP in general, he definitely came off better for Denial. But I just want to talk about the 110 for a little bit. It's basically playing the same role as the IS3 would do, but obviously SchoolBus thinks maybe the 110 is just a better tank for this position because you can make the snapshots quicker, you can just pop over, shoot, which makes it very easy indeed to do the damage at the start.
Yeah, and it looks like Denial have bullied their way up towards that hill, so Arclit and Positive trying to get the damage done between these two. They forced the WZ-132 off the hill and the 1390 as well. So Live for Surf, and I believe it wasn't Shanish, it was Armley who was up there. So they had to adapt already, and Denial bullying their way in and certainly making up for the damage done earlier on.
Ooh, Positive taking a shell there, 217. Live for Surf trying to keep tabs onto Potomaco. As Arclet is from the side in that 110, the reload on that thing is a lot better than the IS-3, so you'll be able to pump out more damage, more DPN from that gun in general. So Potomaco, a little bit of a dangerous position.
I'll see if he can use it. It looks like SchoolBus are waiting to basically back up even further if Denial pushing more. Arclet playing quite passively, to be fair, in that 110. I'm curious as to why the 110's in play, but still, we'll have to see how that comes through, as Live for Surf has to be a little cautious now. There are tanks up on that hill that certainly can harm him, as is Armley. So Potomaco being up here in that T69, may be able to utilise that a little more. Obviously, the T69 is such a viable option on that hill. So much versatility coming out from that gun. But still, we'll have to see how this comes into effect. Who's in the better spot right now? I feel it's Denial.
Yeah, Denial are in a better position for sure. They had the same kind of thing on Himmelsdorf going. They kind of got SchoolBus into one location or two locations. But again, how they managed to go through with this one. Will they be able to win it? Because they didn't on Himmelsdorf, and they have to make the right decisions within the next 30 seconds to a minute and a half is where Denial Esports will actually win or lose this map. And if they lose it, they're going to go 2-0 down, which would be a very bad thing indeed. They're doing it right so far. Meritorious, Butcher, clearly the two favourites to go forwards and try and do damage here. The likes of Positive and Live for Surf have really got to try and get the flank on. Live for Surf has to be very quick. He has to deal with Potomaco if he tries to peek. Shanish, sitting in the background, won't be able to actually deal any damage to these two T-32s as they go forward. So they can get to about here, shoot Armley and Live for Surf. But again, Denial Esports are slow to the mark. They should have gone forwards. They should have pushed Arclet as he's unsupported.
Yeah, Armley now starting to edge around towards the northeast, and I think the move is finally coming out from Denial. Arclet could be caught here, but Arclet does get the first shell off. Not going to follow it up, however. He takes 670 damage. Needs to be a little careful. 110. It looks as though it's waiting to roll away, basically. There we go. And finally the shells come in from Live for Surf on the cross. Two shells coming in. Positive chimes in with one. Not really doing the damage they wanted, but let's bear in mind, SchoolBus are fairly low here on HP. They need to be a little cautious here, just in case Zenith Potomaco do make their move. Armley could be caught out here. Arclet is out on his own. Armley in that 1390 could be in trouble, as Dark God Zim knows it. Live for Surf is there as well. Dark God Zim, however, does win out in the battle, but Potomaco comes in. That T69 was looking like he wanted to get in the fight from the very start, and Zenith steals the kill, but Potomaco did the damage early on, and now we're going to see SchoolBus truly being tested as Potomaco finds Shanish again. And this is not looking good for SchoolBus.
Have to keep on the pressure on Denial Esports' side. Butcher Meritorious doing a very good job in those
tier ones,
T32s. The tier ones also starting to come from both sides. So again, Denial Esports winning the engagement but losing the cap.
Let's see if this comes off though. Dark God Zim is moving, and keep your eyes on the action though. Shanish, Arclet, Positive, all lining up now. Live for Surf from the side, laying down the fire. This time, however, Potomaco gets back. Smarter, more intuitive play coming out from Denial. This could make all the odds, as long as they don't lose out in the big battle going down in the middle as well. So keep your eyes on those caps as well. Keep your eyes on the frags coming in, because all of these are very important. But Potomaco finally lands the shell towards Dark God Zim. Dead Hunter not far away either. But all in all, finally dealing with that threat.
Yeah, good play there from Denial Esports, knowing what SchoolBus likes to do. They're like Virtus Pro. If they lose the initial idea, they go for the secondary plan with the tier ones around the side, and they can just win it on that, despite the fact that they might actually be losing the map overall. It's all about map control, and this is 742, so you don't have that many tanks to play around with. You can't just keep someone in defense if you want to go forward. So Butcher Meritorious still on a fair amount of HP, considering how late it is into the game. Live for Surf taking a couple. Zenith might have to go forwards, but he's still worried about this man here, Shanish, who keeps on getting spotted and keeps on putting the pressure onto Denial. But it's only a matter of time before they go forwards. Potomaco basically has to be in the right position, and obviously Nia Pizzoni and Snip are also coming around from the side. But indeed, it's going to be Potomaco to go forwards. He needs to be there before Denial makes the next move.
We'll see who's going to make the move here. Shanish has been caught out quite drastically, down to 136. Probably going to force the move out from Potomaco down towards the Lighthouse Island. There we go. Nias Pizzoni will find Dead Hunter. That's a big loss for SchoolBus. That was their tier 1 out of the game now. So let's see if they can hold on to this. You can see the lineup they're working with right now. Maybe they're waiting for Zenith to try and find if Surf, Positive, and Arclet could reply. But now Shanish is down so low, He's the weak link here. He could be the one to be exploited. Arclit looking at it, and as is everyone else pretty much right now. But there we go. Meritorious will find him. 3 minutes and 23. That's not a lot of time here for these 3 tanks to stay alive, and all of them have been spotted out previous to now.
Live for Surf, a one-shot for the T32. Arclit, a one-shot for the T32, and AMX 3090 T69. Positive, probably the only one who's not a one-shot for anyone. 320 is the average damage, 240 for the AMX 3090s and T69. So 2 tanks, 1-shots. 1 tank can take a couple, but it's pretty much game over when you consider how much damage and HP Denial have to play with.
And wait to see Zenith move in now. Live for Surf is out on a limb. If they make this timing stick, they could easily take these guys down one by one. So Zenith will find Live for Surf any second now. Positive, it's actually going to be Meritorious finding him, but there we go. Butcher finds Arclit, leaving just Positive alive. 2 kills in a couple of seconds, and Denial on the verge of picking this one up. Positive now down to a one-shot. Meritorious will pick it through, and Denial finally wake up here in the 3rd map, picking up the victory, and actually very well executed to them.
Yeah, a bit slow again,
Yeah.
But they did actually correctly. They kind of saw the way they had to move around the map. I think they could have actually just gone in a lot earlier and won the map, considering how much HP and tanks they had alive to school buses. But after those tier 1s went down, they kind of saw, okay, we have plenty of time to do this one. Let's just not mess it up. We can't lose it. We have to level the scores all even now. Win to Himmelsdorf and going to SchoolBus, and mine's going to Denial. But I did say at the beginning of this matchup, that Mines is probably one of those maps Denial could try something on, and it could work. The play that made me really like is the hill push, but Darkozim going for the cap was SchoolBus's last chance saloon right here, because you can see the damage and Armley being down, and look how much pressure Butcher Meritorious are pushing onto those SchoolBus players. Potomaca gets back, just about manages to stop it, and all in all, Denial just having all the elements finally in towards this matchup, and well, they still got a few maps to play, but so far looking all right for them.
Yeah, credits where it's due to Denial, then they actually did step up to the plate and did every job necessary, so well done to them. But I want to have a quick discussion about the tank choices for SchoolBus in the end. Then the 110, the WZ132, all in play, didn't really, I feel, find their positioning too well. I don't think it was a bad choice. I just don't think it was better than any others. No,
I want to see how that 110 actually plays out. SchoolBus has obviously been testing it out. I'm surprised that they actually picked it. I thought, now they've qualified to the offline finals, maybe the 110 would have been a good pick just to throw the other team off on mines. But it's also that testing, they want to test it under pressure and in a real match environment. I think it could work. The IS3 has obviously got a lot more staying power, and that was a problem. Arclit was on his own unsupported because the AMX 3090 had rotated around and Armley went down. So he couldn't actually stay alive as long as an IS3 would have done against the 2 advancing T32s. Once Arclit went down, basically Meritorious and Butcher could go further in towards the map and basically catch out and basically draw a line straight through the middle, stopping SchoolBus from basically getting back into the right positions. But all in all, just a good play from Denial. I'm quite happy with that. We're moving on to Ensk, of course, the next map. And I'm not sure about this one. I've been pretty strongly in favour for SchoolBus on Ensk throughout the season.
Yeah, I'm tending to agree with you as well. They seem to have a lot of variety to their tactics. They don't just seem to stick on one that seems to work. They're happy to try out new things, and we might see another new element coming in, just testing things out before the offline finals. Obviously, for SchoolBus, they're pretty much safe here. Let's be serious. They're in second position.
100% safe.
They have nothing to worry about results-wise, whereas Denial do. But at the moment, it looks like SchoolBus are happy to test a couple of different options out. But in the end, you still want the pride. You still want to be able to take down your opponents. You still want to maybe even just deny Denial the chance to get to the offline finals. You think they're a threat?
Just stay in second as well because they go through playoffs.
Exactly. You get the right positioning. You get the more, well, not easier opponent, but you get the better opponent for yourselves if you're not in third. So all these small options do come to effect. And SchoolBus will keep that in mind. I think they're just going to be taking their tanks as we speak. And we'll have a little look towards them once they've actually locked them in. Is there any interesting choices so far?
I'm not sure if they've locked any of them in yet.
Yeah, I'm seeing one I'm not sold on yet, but
yeah. Armley's picked up the VK4 502 Ausf A, the German Tier 8 tank, the alternative to the Tiger 2, of course, the legendary tank of World War II. But it was a pickup a very long time ago. I'm trying to think of when, but I'm pretty sure this was like before even there was esports and World of Tanks, just competition and friendly back and forwards on training battles between people, and just the beginnings of ESL, go for and such things. The VK was picked basically because the amount of damage it can do. Not as much as the
Waffle Tiger.
Yeah, and also just the IS3, of course. It doesn't do quite as much damage as that, but it's got a great DPM. It can just pump it out over and over and over and over again. And in a one-on-one situation, that VK has actually got one of the best DPMs out of all the tier 8 heavy tanks. The problem is it's modules and the general way the tank's built, the transmission's at the front, so it gets damaged up very easily. It's very slow if the transmission dies, gets set on fire from the front. Amarak's pretty easy to hit. It's a very big tank. It's got no armor, but
There's a lot of downsides.
It's pretty quick, and it's got a lot of firepower. That's its two upsides.
Well, let's assume maybe they play this tank. Where can it be played?
Well, it's big, so it can be played in a hull down position, despite the fact that it'll probably get penetrated. At least it can head over there instead of the IS3 sometimes being a bit too low to really shoot through the houses. It can be flanked around on. It's very good on the flank because the turret's at the front. It's very good around corners. You only have to peek out a little bit to make the shots.
They're saying they're ready.
So yeah, I think it's going to be picked 100%. So we'll have to see how this one works out.
We're going to keep our eyes on this tank. It will be in the hands of Armley, I believe. So let's get ready for the next map coming up, Ensk. And welcome into battle number 4. We are here on Ensk, and in the north in red it will be SchoolBus. In the south in blue it's going to be Denial. And I have to keep my eyes on a very specific tank, as you said, that VK coming into effect in the hands of Armley. But what are Denial doing right now?
A lot of teams from the south have just basically said, screw the right side, we're just going to go into the middle heavily. Virtus.pro, remember last time they played against Denial, basically just rushed straight in towards Denial's cap. And took them out very quickly. Potomaco and pretty much the whole of Denial heading up towards SchoolBus. And for them, it's a normal start, although Armley's gone quite far forwards in that VK, I'll say. And he's just going to be side scraping as much as he can. He'll get penetrated from the side against an IS3, but he'll at least be there, as SchoolBus has taken up a very central location along the 6th line.
Yeah, Live for Surf, Arclit, Dark Godzim, and Armley are here. Only Dead Hunter, Shanish, and Positive will be watching that 1 to 3 line where the push could start coming through, but I'm still keeping my eyes on this man, Armley. Very interested to see how that tank gets utilised. Slightly more HP, it seems, than a couple of the other tanks, sitting on 1.570. So it could do some work here. I'm waiting to see if Denial are going to make their move as well. You can hear the shots just coming out. Not going to be finding too much too early on, but at the moment, just Snip really in his way and Carmen. So the main action may go down towards the west side here.
Yeah, the west side is definitely looking awfully contentious at the moment. Zenef getting spotted by Shanish there. I have to say Shanish is probably going to have to be careful because Zenef is in the IS3, better tank altogether. But, that VK again, 300 average damage, I think about an 8-second reload, so it can out DPM the IS3 by an absolute country mile. But still, the 5100 will blow it away in pretty much every situation, 1 versus 1, as long as it's still got, 6 shells left in that autoload. Obviously, 5 won't be quite enough unless it gets lucky. But that's basically what SchoolBus wants. They want to just be able to shoot.
Well, Arclit and Dark Godzim heading down there, even rotating out Positive and Shanish. Shanish does get caught a little in that 5100 though, so it should give away the game a touch if that wasn't a blind shot. I don't think it was. I think he was spotted out in the end.
Yeah.
But still, this might be a base race coming on. If Denial push north rather than south, and obviously SchoolBus push south, this could be a base race, and I'm not sure who I prefer in this situation.
That's good. Denial also been pretty slow to the mark. They're kind of still sitting up in towards the city, not moving at all. The only one really defending that base is Carmen, one of the team managers for Denial, and really not doing much in that position, being quite aggressive basically to stop the gap. Butcher starts to head his way back, and we got to be careful with Denial here right now because they're a team that's really struggled when they split their tanks up. They've been very good together, just not apart. So I have to wait and see. Zenef also starting to make his way back, so indeed Denial are putting more, but they're really unsure of what they want to do. Do they want to go aggressive against SchoolBus, who have now taken pretty much all the right side of the map, or do they want to stay defensive and go for maybe a split push into the cap with most of their tanks still back at base?
I'll be interested to see what they go for here, because SchoolBus are doing a bit of a 3-2 split as well themselves. They have roughly around 3 of the tanks, maybe around 4 pushed towards the south, 2 left north, just in case there is that counter cap in play. Shanish did take a little damage earlier, down to 979, but not too much, as Armley just taking away some of this. Dead Hunter has found Snip, but look at this move coming out from Denial. 4 tanks cutting across the map here, down that E-line. Arclit really could be in trouble if he's not careful. Meritorious Niz, Bazzoni, Potomako. Oh, the fire! He even lands it on the move. Takes Potomako down a little bit. He's got to be careful here. Those turrets are turning, and there's a lot of firepower coming through, but now Positive and Dead Hunter come around the backside. Butcher's found Dark God Zim. This could be a dangerous situation here. Positive might have free reign, and Meritorious finds out how. Here we go. This is going to be a close game between these two. Denial in between, but can they make it count?
Positive's going to be a real thorn in the side for Denial Esports, but the thing is, Butcher's also on his own, taking a lot of damage, being very aggressive. Carmen keeping the cap kind of under control a little bit. Arclit taking a little bit more damage, but they're flanking, and look how much Denial's taking.
Yeah, damage come from both sides though, but they need to make sure they're focusing on the right tanks here. Shanish and Liv 44 seconds, going up to 127 now. Positive round the backside, keeping tabs on Denial, making sure they can't push forward. Free reign, and Lifasurf takes a little too much damage, but Potomako now going fairly low. One more shell will do that job, and there we go. Armley comes into effect with that VK doing the job, and I like this play coming out from SchoolBus. They're playing smart, they're being able to utilize their tanks on the split, but now Positive finally being pushed down on his own. The 5100 will have to retract away. Zenef was chasing him out, fluffs the shot, and the cap is still underway.
The cap is still there, and Butcher just about gets back into position, but he's not there to stop the cap, so they are going to go for Positive.
This is unbelievable. Positive is on the run. He might be able to get away. Look at the attention he's drawing away. 4 seconds on that cap. They're going to cap this one out again. SchoolBus, can you believe it? No, just about reset in time. Armley taking a big bit of damage. 4 seconds still going here. It's all down to Meritorious. Butcher found 1. 0 seconds left. Have they done it? Yes, they have. SchoolBus again. Denial, what are you doing? You took the bait and SchoolBus took the win. Unbelievable.
The cap that was just being done for like 2 minutes. Do it. Carmen again not managing to decap. He was too obvious a position, and Butcher, he just wasn't in the fight. He reminded me of New Multi-Show a little bit in that matchup. Yeah, he did 1.6k, which is the most damage out of Denial Esports, but he wasn't effective damage. He wasn't in an effective position. He should have been there with Carmen just to stop the cap. Also Positive from behind. Very, very, very good play there from SchoolBus. They basically trapped Denial in towards the middle. Positive did so much damage. Niapazzoni getting caught out by Armley as well with that VK. And just not quick enough, not snappy enough in Denial Esports. That VK did 1,000 damage, so maybe not an entirely success story, but
I don't think it was a bad
not
play,
a bad
though.
Pickup at all. We didn't really see it tested and really in a position where it could really do that damage it can. It
was just more the tactics again from SchoolBus just working out perfectly, and the lack of decision making from Denial, I feel, really cost him a lot of kind of time then. I still can't believe the two tanks chased down Positive. I think was it Butcher and Zenef both chased him rather than focusing on the cap and assuming that the rest of the tanks would land those shells. It's a bit dangerous when you know that that's only one tank towards the north and the entirety down towards the south. Denial making questionable choices now 2 times in a row. We've seen caps happening that Denial could have stopped, and they've given up the advantage now, going into Cliff, which is pretty much the home map of SchoolBus, one of the strongest ones for them, and also one of the only teams I've seen really sticking that lighthouse rotate round on the east side of the map. So
might be able to just sneak around and get a couple of shots onto the tracks to reset it, and then near Pazzoni and really the rest of Denial, Zenef as well there, and an IS3 could have stopped it, but it just wasn't good enough. Denial weren't thinking far enough ahead, and just not putting enough importance on how easy it is to cap in this game. It really is, as long as you keep the pressure on the other team and stop them getting to that one tank that's sitting right at the back, right behind everyone, but has the most cap points. Obviously, the further and the longer you're in the cap, the more cap points you get. So that's the tank you have to take down, and that might be the hardest one to get. Often is in this high level of play. But yeah, you're talking about Cliff. SchoolBus has been unbelievable on this map. I think that's fair to say. Denial have also, had their games for sure, but now on the 5th map, 2-1 down, the most they can hope for is that 1 point.
Yeah, let's have a little quick look back at that previous map, and you can see Shanish was here. Carmen did do the work earlier on. But then keep your eyes towards the minimap as well. This is when Denial were focusing on resetting the cap.
Yeah.
They're seeing this come into effect. Positive did catch up on a Mako. A good bit of damage coming in.
Then Armley comes around the side. Boom, takes him out.
There we go.
He was
Look at
unspotted.
that cohesion.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic between the two.
Yeah, Armley did a fantastic job there. He was the one who was unspotted, so he could easily just go in and do the damage. And Dead Hunter, you can see, basically won it for them. He was in a really awkward position for Denial to reset. They would have to pretty much commit 100% to take it down.
But why did those two tanks then just completely
Carmen shooting the front of the turret is not good enough. You have to train. Always go for the tracks, because that's damage. It doesn't do turret damage, but it does reset just enough. And he just doesn't hit it, and he just doesn't do the damage to reset.
Well, mistakes coming in for Denial, which is a bit of a shame there, because they did... I liked their initial kind of response, sending those four tanks down the 6 line, pretty much looking to try and cut these guys off. Didn't factor in Positive still being in the north. Surely something you'd try and keep in mind, making sure that you know that it's clear, because you saw the damage that Positive was able to put down just on his own, constantly catching these guys out. And it's a little surprising to me that they didn't focus it down, but still, it's maybe this is a good step in the right direction for Denial. Just it's the small things they just don't seem to have locked down to me, but still. Cliff, what tanks are we seeing? Is there any surprises here?
Seeing a 5100 Pershing triple AMX 3090 double tier 1 for SchoolBus, and quadruple AMX 3090 T69 double tier 1 from Denial. Not too unusual tanks from these two. We've seen SchoolBus pick the 5100 in the previous matchup on Cliff, actually the last game they played, and Denial like that quadruple AMX 3090 T69, so quite a normal lineup, although some would argue the triple MX 3090 double T69 is really the standard one. This is pretty normal as well.
And let's be serious here, this could be the killing blow for Denial. So let's get ready for what could possibly be our final map now for Denial, at least with a chance to go forward in this season. And it's going to be Cliff. And welcome into the 5th and final map here between SchoolBus and Denial Esports. In the north in blue, it's Denial, literally with their last chance, and in the south in red, it's SchoolBus, looking absolutely fantastic so far today. What are they getting up to so far? 2
tier 1s right, and really the rest of the tanks heading straight into the middle. Butcher does give me a little bit of the crease, because he could be going low, but instead heads right, and it looks like Denial are going pretty aggressive at the start, not going for the initial fast engagement. And SchoolBus doing very much the same, but because they got the slower lineup, they'll take a little bit more time to get up the hill. So Denial wouldn't be a bad thing if they actually went aggressive at the start. Pontomaka finally gets the Arclit exchanging a couple of shots, gets one of his own, but often we see Arclit receiving a few shots at the start, but still managed to hold his own against the likes of Meritorious, who's so far winning though.
Yeah, he is in the Pershing, a lot of HP in that. He's only down to 1021 so far, as Meritorious is down to 832. So, out of all the tanks you'd want to take the damage on, maybe the Pershing would be a better one than maybe a 1390s or the 5100 if you really want to keep that, for the late game. But obviously Pershing can soak up the damage a little more than most, whereas Meritorious in that 1390 gets to walk away with, quite a substantial amount of HP chipped off and looking a little bit more vulnerable. But still, all in all, I think we need to kind of go over the fact here that Denial, if they draw this up, they're literally leaving the results in the hands of Virtus Pro and everyone else. I don't know if they're even possible anymore. They've let this one slip.
Yeah, so C-Play and TCM are on 12 points, so this will bring them up to 10 points, Denial, so they would still be one too little. They have the last game versus Kazna Crew next week, which will give them a possible 14 points. So TCM and C-Play would need to lose both their next 2 games for them to actually have a serious chance. And really, I don't see that happening. TCM has pretty easy opponents considering how they've been playing this season, as does C-Play. So Denali Sports have gone through the easy opponents, and they're really going to be playing Kazna Crew, who are at the moment third on the table, tied up with SchoolBus. So if they can't beat SchoolBus, they can't beat Kazna.
And if anything, the last team I'd want to face as my deciding game would be against my old team captain.
Yeah.
The grudge match is going to be horrific for these guys, considering they've really not had the best performance. And then the deciding factor will be against one of their old teammates. But still, at the moment, SchoolBus not making the first move here. They're playing passive. They know that Denial have to make the move if they want to have even a chance to go forward. And it looks like they're happy just to leave it to them right now.
To be fair as well, I think Denial wouldn't be too bad if they just pushed straight off the hill and took down Arclit straight away. Shanish, yeah, okay, he's down to the side and he will have a good line of fire, but he's playing the MX 3090, not a classically a good map to snipe on. So Potomac, Zenith, Meritorious, Neopozoni would have to join in with the fun, push off onto Arclit. He's already down a couple of shots, take him down pretty quickly, and then move on to the MX 5100. Dark Godsim won't be able to reply. Shanish Lifaserv and Dead Hunter also won't be in the greatest position. The worst thing Denial can do is leave it too late for them to actually make a proper move.
And that's pretty much all I'm looking at now. 6 minutes and 24 seconds. Denial, your fate is literally in your hands right now. This is the last time it will be. The draw is the best outcome you can hope for at this time. But right now, Potomako gets caught out and live for surf. He's not going to turn that opportunity down, and even Zenith takes one. This is looking pretty disastrous.
Oh dear, Denial. Oh dearie me. I mean, as you were saying, leaving up to the 1 point is already a bad call. Now could possibly the 3 points taken away for them, and 0 being the only other option. And Potomako went in once, he didn't get spotted, he went in a second time, Arclit had just peeked around the corner, got spotted, got taken down. No idea why he made that move. The first time he didn't do anything, the second time it didn't do anything. So why did he go for it?
Well, it looks like Butcher's trying his luck now. One by one, they're moving in, and we know that's a mistake, and Butcher gets punished by Shanish. And what are you doing, Denial? Really, one by one they're pushing in, and one by one they're being taken down here.
Butcher just didn't seem to care then. He knew without Potomako it would be pretty much game over. Potomako has been on point this match day, really the only one bringing it through for Denial. And then with him, it's pretty much game over. And look at this, the last stand from Denial.
This breaks my heart to see almost, but then again, he threw it away, and it looks like SchoolBus are moving in for that killing blow. Dark God Zim, Arclit, Armley, all moving up. Dead Hunter, Fine Snip, Carmen did go for the exchange, but you can see on the map the move is coming through now. Liftsurf did pick up that tier 1, so Armley now in that 5100 makes his move, and this could be the last we're going to be seeing for Denial for really some time if they don't pick this one up, and I just don't see it happening for them. Nias Pizzorni, Meritorious, and Zenef to take on 6 members of SchoolBus. I think this game's almost over.
Mathematically almost impossible. One tank is enough. Potomako going down was enough. Butcher getting butchered was just the last straw, I think, for Nine Sports. Arclit starting to make his move, gets caught a little bit by Meritorious from the side, but it will be very easy to take him down.
None of those shells even damaging Shanish and Arclit, which is the more depressing factor of this. And there we go. Armley tells him how it's done, takes him down, leaving just Zenef and the Espazoni alive. And this will give, well, SchoolBus free reign to hunt these guys down. Live for Surf will be the one testing this out. He's found the Espazoni here already. Shanish moving straight in for the kill. There is absolutely no sympathy coming out from SchoolBus here. They are looking like they want to make this one hurt. And the Espazoni surrounded on all sides. 4 tanks to take him down, and there's no escaping. Shanish might fall, but Nias Pizzorni is 1 shot away from going out. And there we go, Live for Surf claims it. Zenef next on the chopping board. 1, maybe 2 more shells will do the job. Armley positive, slowly but surely making their way forward. Zenef trying to fight his way down. But there we have it, ladies and gents. Denial get denied the chance of moving up that scoreboard. And SchoolBus claim another victory.
And also keep themselves in that second place if Kazna Crew don't win their next matchup, which would be a hard one, I think. We can all agree on that. Yep. Obviously, our next game coming up. But looking at Denial right now, 0 points coming away from this match day. We are talking about the possibilities they took 1 point. But now with 0, it's very hard times indeed. I think 10 points if they win the next game, which is against Kazna Crew. That will bring them up to 13 points. And TCM and C-Play both on 12 points. So they don't need to draw one of the next 2 games, which is such an easy possibility. Denial, they're going to have to play in the relegation matches, I think.
And sadly, they can blame no one but themselves, especially in this game. I feel other times they've made the first move and maybe luck's just not been on their side sometimes, and there's been several factors. In this game, however, I think they've got to suck it up and say we made a mistake here. We made several mistakes that cost us maps that we were almost winning.
Yeah.
I look at Himmelsdorf, I look at Ensk, both city maps that they used to be pretty competent on. SchoolBus just literally rolled over them. And let's have a look at those final moments, obviously, in the last game here. Polo Mako.
Yeah.
Set on fire, taken down, and from then on, Zenith even staying out of position for so long, and it's...
Yeah, that was definitely Potomaco's fault there. I'm not sure exactly what he was doing.
Maybe frustration.
But Denial knew where SchoolBus were. They knew 100% because they've seen it before, time and time again from the south, what SchoolBus does on this map.
Especially with the 5100.
This was their classic tactic, and all Denial had to do was just try something a little bit sparky, a little bit quirky, and not put Potomaco in a position where he's on his own in a bush in the middle of nowhere.
I've got to say, it's a little disappointing to see. I wish we could have seen a little more, all in all. But nevertheless, the better team won, I think we can put it that way.
For sure.
SchoolBus looking very solid. Finally, the team that we expected to see maybe towards the end of the season coming into effect. The well-rounded team that was always up in the top 3 in the last couple of seasons, giving us another great performance on Cliff there and all the prior maps. And it's good to see them doing that without Appleware in the lineup as well. It's actually nice to see every single member stepping up a little there. However, you guys at home did support SchoolBus, but did you stick with it all the way through? Melly, did the people at home keep their word on this one?
Of course they did, of course.
They always know, right? Why would I doubt
exactly.
it?
People at home always know what's happening here before we actually do. But since they're still in the last map, so the score isn't final yet from the vote, but they still predict a 69% positive outcome for SchoolBus. So it's pretty obvious who is favored here. And if I have a look on the results, well, 9-15 is a bit way over the top, but we have 5-3 people. We don't play 8 maps. You can't vote 5-3. But or 9-15, as said before. No, if I have a look on the results from the prediction game, it's pretty clear. So people at home predict a very clear ending for this series. It's something like 2-1, 3-1. Very rare close endings like 2-2. No, nothing yet. But yeah, people at home are right as always, and I saw a lot of tweets coming from you guys, so thank you very much. They entertained me a lot, and you were mostly right. That's insane how good you can actually predict the maps and the way of the playing style of the teams. It's just amazing. Just head over to Twitter and check yourself by simply searching for the hashtag WGLEU to see what the community is tweeting about, and of course follow us on Twitter as well at WGLEU to stay updated during the matches. So even if you can't watch the stream, you will get live updates from us and from the community, of course. If you, as said, search for the hashtag WGL, and if you have to say, if you want to say something, and if you have something on your heart, just tweet us by using the hashtag, and yeah, we will see it and we will talk about it. And if you have questions, you're invited to ask our experts everything what you ever wanted to know. Doesn't have to do with tanks if you like, just fire right away. Let's see what kind of questions will arrive us today. Awesome. But yeah, the next vote for the next matchup, which will be some kind of a highlight, I guess, will be online in a few minutes, and I'm really, really excited for that one.
I think we all are. It's pretty much, for me, the game I've been waiting to see since the start of the season, since we started to see Kazna getting to that top and looking absolutely phenomenal. Finally, maybe a challenger for Virtus Pro. But your predictions on this one, actually, I want to hear your thoughts, because you've been supporting Kazna on this season. You've been saying they've been playing well. Their players have truly stepped up. Elian's been great. Can they do this?
I've also said Virtus Pro have been unstoppable this season. So
yeah, which team are you sticking with?
And I have to give it to Virtus Pro in general. They've just been
scoreline though.
Absolutely insane. I think this might be the closest matchup they've had by far, because to be honest, apart from Druiding Leprechauns, they've never been tested before.
Yep.
And that was only one map Druiding Leprechauns managed to take against them.
Scoreline, Ollie.
Scoreline.
Come on.
I don't know, man. I think I think it's going to be very close. I'm not sure if scoreline is entirely relevant. I think it's going to be like a 3-1 to V-Pro. But I think the maps are going to be very, very close and down to the wire.
You know, I think I want to say like a 3-2 kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe
like,
even a 3-2.
I think a 3-2. It depends on the maps we see. It depends on Kasna. You know, sometimes Kasna have turned up and looked a little shaky. We've seen them actually losing games this season. They haven't been, completely flawless, but, I think they had a 67% win rate out of 9 battles. That's not bad, but it's the way they played that's always looked very impressive to me. They've always looked like a great team, but I think it's all about that map choice, and I really want to see it going well for them, because finally Virtus.pro might have to really bring out the A game, because I feel almost Virtus.pro have coasted to an extent. They've looked solid as hell, let's be serious, but they've not been fully pushed, and that's when Virtus.pro become insanely good, is when they finally get that opponent who makes them play that 20-30% extra that just crushes people. So I think the danger for Virtus.pro is in the first 2 maps. If Kasna start going then,
exactly,
that's when we're going to get a game.
Yeah.
Because otherwise Virtus.pro will just stay in that really comfortable zone, roll on, 3 maps done. If there's an upset in the first 2, I think that's when Virtus.pro will either bring out that 20% extra or they'll lose. But that's all down to you guys at home as well. Get your predictions through to us. Facebook, Twitter, get involved. We want to hear from you guys at home. This is a hard game to predict. I don't really want to call it either way. I'm still saying Virtus.pro, but it could change. That's the real thing here. Finally, a challenger for the giants of Virtus.pro, but that's all after a very short break, so do stay tuned. We have the best game of the season coming up in just 5 minutes.